Welcome to The Explainer. We tend to think of our fast-paced urban lives as something entirely brand new, right? Like it's strictly a product of the 20th or maybe 21st century. But what if I told you that the underlying blueprint of modern life, literally the way our cities are built, how our economies are run, and how our societies are structured, was actually drafted thousands of years ago?
Think about this for a second. Did you realize that some of the modern Indian cities you know, and maybe even live in today, are actually 2,500-year-old fortified strongholds? It's true. I really want to challenge you to rethink the origins of the streets you walk on every day. Because today, we're tracing the incredible journey of how ancient history literally built the foundations of our modern world.
Okay, let's dive into this architectural blueprint. We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover. We're going to start with the second urbanization, then uncover how iron acted as the ultimate catalyst, explore the rise of the Mahajanapadas, decode their ancient governance, and finally, look at the Varna Jati architecture that held it all together.
Section 1. The Second Urbanization, a vibrant new phase. So there was this massive society-altering shift that took place. On one side, you've got the first urbanization. That's the famous Harappan civilization centered around the Indus Basin, heavily reliant on copper and bronze. But as that society disintegrated, something entirely new took its place in the first millennium BCE. This second urbanization shifted east toward the Dunga Plains, and it brought with it revolutionary iron tools, rich new literature, monasteries, basically entirely new ways of living. And interestingly enough, the sources we're looking at note that this second wave of urbanization has essentially just continued right up to the present day.
Section 2. Iron, the catalyst, fueling urban growth. Now, this shift triggered what is basically a perfect mathematical domino effect. Step 1. The discovery of iron metallurgy gave us iron plows and axes. These replaced much weaker copper or stone tools. So suddenly, harder soil could be tilled, dense forests could be cleared, and boom, you get a massive surplus in agriculture. Step 2. Because not everyone had to farm just to survive anymore, people could specialize. You get dedicated blacksmiths, carpenters, masons. Step 3. All these new goods plus stronger iron-wheeled carts meant trade could expand safely over much longer distances. And finally, Step 4. These bustling trade routes naturally birthed massive urban hubs. So literally, better tools engineered the creation of cities.
Section 3. Mahajanapadas, Rise of Powerful States.
The geography you're looking at right here is absolutely crucial. The fertile Gangetic Plains weren't just some scenic backdrop. They were the very engine of prosperity. That rich soil provided the agricultural bedrock required to feed large, concentrated populations. And that's exactly what allowed these 16 great Mahajanapadas to emerge, grow, and project serious power across the subcontinent. And here is where ancient history crashes right into our modern reality. The most powerful of these ancient states, their capitals are still living, breathing cities today. Magadha was headquartered in Pataliputra, which we know today as Patna. Kusala's capital, Shravasti, remains a major site in Uttar Pradesh. Vatsa was ruled from Kaushambi, near modern Prayagraj. And Avanti's capital, Ujjayini, is the modern city of Ujjain. You might literally be living right on top of a 2,500-year-old capital. So how did they actually design these cities? Well, they weren't just sprawling random settlements. They were highly engineered. Ancient urban planners fortified these capitals with deep moats and intentionally narrow gateways through massive rampart walls. Why narrow gates? For strict border security and to closely monitor the movement of people and commercial goods. It's the exact same logic we use for customs and border control today. They were just executing it 2,500 years ago.
Section 4. Ancient Governance, Rules of Statecraft.
While a lot of the Mahajanapadas were standard monarchies ruled by a hereditary king or raja, what's truly remarkable here is the emergence of the Ganas or Sanghas. In places like Vaji and Mala, decisions were not made by just one person. They were made by assemblies and councils who selected their leaders. So India was actually pioneering some of the earliest democratic, republican systems in the entire ancient world. And their political theory was incredibly sharp. Just listen to this advice from Kautilya in the Arthashastra. The kingdom shall be protected by fortifying the capital. It should have a productive economy with a wide variety of commodities. I mean, come on. That doesn't sound like ancient history. That sounds like a modern presidential policy briefing. In fact, Kautilya's advice maps flawlessly onto our modern pillars of statecraft. Let's look at it. Fortifying frontiers? That's just modern national security. Preparing to sustain populations during calamities? That is literally disaster management. Protecting natural wealth and forests? Environmental sustainability.
And calling for diverse commodities is the exact same thing modern economists mean when they preach economic diversification. The tools have evolved, sure, but the vision for sustainable governance? Absolutely identical.
Section 5, Varna Jati Architecture, Social Organization.
Now, to manage the immense, swirling complexity of these new bustling cities, early Indian society developed the Varna Jati system. According to the historical sources we're examining today, this originated as a functional, complex social framework. Its initial purpose was simply to organize early city life by dividing the population into distinct groups based on their class, their specific occupation, and their religious status.
The first part of this framework is the Varna. This was a Vedic concept that established a fourfold functional hierarchy to basically ensure all societal needs were met. Brahmins were tasked with knowledge preservation and rituals. Kshatriyas handled defense and governance. Vaishyas focused on generating wealth through trade and agriculture. And Shudras served as the essential artisans, craftspeople, and workers. In the context of early urbanization, this division of labor ensured that every municipal and societal task had a dedicated group to fulfill it.
Operating right alongside Varna was the Jati system. See, as cities grew, they required highly specialized skills. We're talking advanced metallurgy, complex stonemasonry, detailed record-keeping. Jatis were specific occupational communities. To ensure these absolutely vital skills weren't lost, they were closely guarded and passed down from generation to generation within the community. This provided a stable, highly reliable workforce for these rapidly expanding urban centers.
However, the sources note a profound shift that occurred over time. While the original intent of this system provided early economic stability, professional specialization, and even allowed for some flexibility during times of crisis or migration, its ultimate impact fundamentally changed the trajectory of the society. Over the centuries, what began as a functional economic organizer hardened into rigid hierarchies. This evolution led to entrenched social inequalities and discrimination that marginalized specific groups and those excluded entirely from the system.
Which brings us to a final thought to ponder today. We've seen how the invention of iron tools sparked a chain reaction that built the very cities some of us live in today. We've seen how ancient advice on statecraft mirrors our modern national policies, and how early attempts to organize labor left lasting impacts on social architecture. So how do the foundations of urban planning, governance, and social architecture built 2,500 years ago still echo in the complexities of your modern world? Keep that in mind the next time you walk down a city street or read the daily news. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the blueprints around you.